G'day YouTube. Baubles on a lot here. Just about to go for a bit of a ride. I don't know. Maybe we'll get as far as Fruit Salad Corner. Having a go at a 40 km/h range experiment. I have done 55 kilometres on one charge in two separate rides, starting at 100%. And I think I was at 26% when I got back. Might have been 23%. Have to look up the logbook to determine it. But I have reason to believe that the battery did not entirely enjoy the extended time under the tarpaulin waiting for me to decide to become sober enough to play with the motorbike. I might have shaved about 10% off the top end of its total capacity, going by the voltage across those three pins. One of them is a common negative, the other two are positives. Fully charged should be 67 volts. In actual fact, fully charged, it only turns out to be about 65 and 62 volts. So Chrissy has been a naughty boy. But on the other hand, Chrissy didn't hurt himself or the bike or the battery by trying to learn to ride at age 63 while drunk. So fair trade-off. And from when it was 3 months under the tarpaulin to when it was 6 months under the tarpaulin, I didn't dare take the tarpaulin off to charge it in case I gave in to the temptation to try and ride it to the bloody front gate or something before recharging it. So yeah, playing mind games with myself, and the battery has suffered, but no skin off anybody's nose. Let's see how we go on the road. Okay, so it's about 2 days since I charged the bike last, and when I charged it up till it said it was 100% charged. It now says it's 99% charged, and that is a bit of a disappointment because I would have expected it would hold full charge for at least that amount of time, you know, 2 days. And whereas if you stop charging when the bike indicates 100%, you wind up calculating 31 kilometres to the litre. If you continue charging for 10 or 15 minutes after the bike indicates it's full, the charger will still be blink red, indicating that it's trying to charge the battery. And the charger's cooling fan will still be operating, indicating it is still trying to charge the battery. If at that point you start worrying about how the bike says the battery's full and the charger says it's not, and you unplug the charger from the power supply, leaving the charger connected to the battery, the charger will then blink red a couple more times for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and then its cooling fan will stop and the lights will go out. Wait 10 seconds, 15 seconds, reconnect the charger to the power supply, and when that happens, the charger will show green for about 1.5 seconds, then it will blink red and green a couple of times, and then it'll blink red, which indicates charging. After a variable amount of time, it'll alternate red and green, and at that point its cooling fan stops, indicating that there's nothing, if any, current going through, but that out of the 2 stacks of batteries, one of them has not reached fully charged. Now I've done 423 kilometres before I started this ride. I haven't counted how many times I've recharged it, but I could figure it out. After the first ride, when I recharged it, the charger blinked green at 90%, blinked green again at 95%, and when I went back over there expecting it to be at 100, the charger was holding a steady green and it was at 100 on the bike. It's never done that again. So I think I've shaved 10% off the battery's age, lifetime, life expectancy, in that 3 months of benevolent neglect, because I just did not want to try and learn how to do this while drinking 3 or 4 bottles of scotch a week. And the dental horror story involved with coming back from getting your head cooked at a 1.5 years after finishing the treatment, that's about where I was at. When the bike arrived from Sydney, I was drinking 3 bottles of scotch a week, and I was waiting for my new teeth. New teeth arrived and I worked my way up to 4 bottles of scotch before it really got bad. When I hit a bottle a day, 2 days in a row, that's when I stopped. And then I waited 6 weeks to get the booze out of my system before trying to ride this thing. Because it's 3 times the power, so 3 times the weight and 12 times the power. Of the electric bike I was used to riding. And I've never had a motorbike in my life before this one. So my ill plates are not just for show. And like I said, I have done 55 kilometres between recharges, but that was like 40, yeah, I think it was 41 and 14, something like that. And I went out at 40 kilometres an hour intending to do the whole ride at 40. But when I turned around I had to do about 16 kilometres at full throttle because I was trying to get home before I got rained on. So today we're doing a similar thing. Only when we get to the 4 ways we're going to turn left instead of right, instead of heading for Dundee. The aim is to head for Fruit Salad Corner, going past the feedlot. And the idea is to turn back around at somewhere between 25 and 27 kilometres in order to replicate that earlier ride. Because I think at 40 kilometres an hour this thing should be able to go away 30 k's and then turn around and go back and get back with somewhere around 20% or so of the battery capacity remaining. And I think I'm probably going to work out how to afford a second battery that has not been abused by neglect, and I will alternate them. Yesterday I had an interesting, the day before I suppose, I had an interesting conversation with a bloke who I thought must have been wrong, because he told me that you don't have to worry about lithium-ion batteries getting too cold because we don't get cold enough here to annoy them, which is pretty much the exact diametrical opposite of what I've been thinking for a very long time, based on the idea that a friend of mine 15 years or so ago, he had a plug-in electric car with more than 100 kilometres range. He could drive to Armadale, recharge and then come home. It was built, hand-built in Armadale by a little start-up company with a research grant, somehow affiliated with a university, I think. Anyway, when old mate had this thing for about a year and a half, he took it back to the manufacturer for a regular service, maintenance, in June or July. And they put it in a brick shed, brick garage, with either a corrugated iron or a tile ceramic roof, but no insulation and no heating. And Armadale that night's supposed to have got down to minus 12 degrees, and after that the $40,000 battery in the $70,000 electric car was nothing but a hole in the universe where a battery used to be, because it just didn't work anymore. And I'm pretty sure there's a fair few caveats and warnings on the electric chainsaw system about using it when it's too cold. So I've been beautifully wrapping this thing up at night in 2 or 3 old coats and a foam picnic blanket and a tarpaulin over the top, basically to keep it warm, because my understanding was that lithium batteries don't like getting frozen. And this fella in the main street was telling me that it's okay, not a problem, as long as you don't go below minus 70 degrees. And he said they don't like getting hotter than 70 degrees either. But I can find a battery low temperature charging warning What I can't find anywhere is a minimum temperature for operational use on either the motorbike, on the battery, and you know, I popped the fake fuel tank cover and lifted the battery up high enough to read what's on the side of it, and it says not to use it in extreme high temperatures, but it doesn't say anything about low temperatures. 5% to go 5 kilometres. We're at 99, we're now at 94%. using about 33 watt hours per kilometre because I'm only cruising at about 40 k's. %, slower compared to cruising at 45. You get about 17% more range, according to my allegations, based on calculations, which I think are more or less accurate. And I forgot to wear me bright orange look at me, don't run over me jacket too, I just realised. Bit of a weird thing to be riding around town on this. I'm used to getting around being unnoticed. And just another grey-bearded old fellow with a bit mangier looking than most of them, because I've got an asymmetric beard, but not too many people pay too much attention to me. On this thing, all manner of people stop and look and turn back and ask if it's electric. And I had one young kid on a green P plate stop in the middle of the road to ask if it was electric, you know, and being Glen Innes, there wasn't much traffic behind him. So, yeah, his parting shot was that this is the coolest thing he's ever seen, after hearing a bit about what it costs to register, how fast it does not go, but how far it goes on, you know, how little petrol, even if you've got no grid power and you're running on a generator. And yeah, if you're trying to force the charger to get cranky batteries to go up a bit more than 20 kilometres to the litre, but I think I'm going to give up on that game and settle for what they can do rather than being pissed off at what they can't do, because it was more or less my fault that they can't do it, not their fault. And it's a waste of petrol. 15 minutes running the generator achieving nothing but pissing off the batteries. And I've been using the new little Gentrax digital inverter generator to charge the chainsaw and the brush cutter batteries, whereas the 3000 watt generator took 710 mils to run for an hour and a half to charge the big battery, big Husqvarna battery, after an hour and a half cutting in light grass or 45 minutes in real heavy stuff, versus 1 litre per hour in the old Kanika 2-stroke, if you could get it to run past, you know, half an hour before breaking 3 sets of springs and calling it quits until after you refilled the tank and had a cup of coffee. So the new digital inverter generator with a 40cc motor instead of a 220cc motor. It'll charge an empty chainsaw or brush cutter battery, the big one, in 1 hour and 26 minutes, same charging time, and it'll do it on half a litre instead of 710. And I can't apply that little generator to this yet, because although it's a 750 watt with 850 watt surge capacity unit, its operator's manual says break-in period is the first 25 hours, do not exceed 75% load until you've run it for 25 hours and then change the engine oil. So at the moment it's run about 6.5 hours on chainsaw and brush cutter batteries. And to charge the small battery, the BLI 200, using the small 80 watt charger, the small generator on its first run took about 393 mils per hour, and it took 4 hours to charge with the small battery charger. It would have taken 3.5 to 4 hours to charge the big BLI 300 if they were fully flat. So the moral of that story is don't go anywhere near the 80 watt charger when you run it on a generator. It's good to do them on a solar panel at the after midday when you've already charged your house light and batteries, and use the smallest generator you can to charge your chainsaw battery and your electric motorbike. And when I'm running this thing, switching the charger off as soon as the motorbike says the battery's at 100%, accepting the fact that by the next day it will probably have dropped to 96 or 95% indicated. Right according to that, whereas it was 31 kilometres to the litre when I was riding like that on the big generator, I think I can get around 40 or 41 clicks to the litre. Which will make a trip to town and back less than 1 litre of petrol instead of 3.3 litres in the Forester. And that's the whole idea behind this thing. Last week from Friday to Friday I went to town once in the car on Friday afternoon for my groceries, and as I was going to town yesterday in the car I was congratulating myself on 5 trips on the bike at about 1.2 or 1.3 litres each return, and I figured if I'd done those extra 5 trips in the car, which I wouldn't have done, but oh well, I need a phone voucher and I also need practice riding the bike, so off we go, sort of thing. Oh, 2 loaves of bread and a litre of milk, let's ride the bike for town. Having fun. It would have taken 16 or 17 litres of petrol to do all that running backwards and forwards in the car, versus 6 on the bike. Running it through the big generator and all. So I was feeling very virtuous until I got to town. I went to go to the auto bank and found that my debit card was in my wallet. My wallet was back on the bloody desk in the hut. So instead of 36 kilometres for a trip to town for the afternoon on Friday, it was about a 72 kilometre Friday afternoon, because I had to go straight back home and get the wallet, become lawful to drive back to town with the licence in the wallet. So I turned me one trip to town in the car into 2 trips to town just by sheer bloody forgetfulness. When I was a kid, this is one of the places my father used to come looking for firewood on the side of the road back before that became illegal. When I was a real little kid, he'd come out here with a bloody chainsaw and cut it up and drag it to town. He had a circular saw and a swing trapeze hanging off the end of the bench. And he'd stick, I don't know, 5 or 6 foot lengths of wood on the bench, grab hold of the bloody motor of the saw and pull it towards him on this trapeze. Basically pulling the rotating blade towards himself in order to cut the overhanging bit of wood off. I was never allowed to approach within about 10 feet while he was using it. And then chainsaws got smaller and he got into the idea of cutting the wood up into sort of stove length pieces in the field and loading it up like that, and the old saw bench fell into disuse. But it's kind of funny that I finished up living out here for 35 years. Because it wasn't until 8 years ago I discovered that my grandfather used to come out here looking for charcoal for his blacksmith forge. And I can remember going to a bloody water skiing event out at Rangers Valley Dam in about 1964. There was a kid crossing the road, coming back along Nant Park Road. The old man stopped and picked it up, put it in a butter box or something that was happened to be in the back of the car, put it in the car hole. But he took it back to town on the Sunday afternoon, and my youngest sister, who at that time was still a school student, she took it to school. And gave it to the science teacher, and they put it in the science lab, and the escape got into the library and ate its way through a couple of shelves full of books trying to get out of there. So I've been sort of coming out here since I was about 3 that I can recall. Don't know how much you can see, but off to the left there's the Rangers Valley Station manor house sort of thing with quite a few outbuildings with the staff. And over on the right hand side is the feedlot with 25,000 moo cows living behind barbed wire with bulldozers pushing their shit around and being fed by the grain in the, I think it's 5, might be 6 silos in a battery over there. Off to the extreme right, don't know whether you can see it, probably not. May get a glimpse of it after we cross the bridge here. There's the original little covered in feedlot. which Bob Cloggers put together on his own. I think when he started out he might have been putting together a feedlot for like 500 cows, and then he doubled it to 1,000, and then 44 pitch, we don't need to be going that fast. 84 kilometre, 84%, 16 kilometres. Yeah, well, so I've used 15%, come the same distance at 40 k's as I usually get to the post office. Probably 81, 82% off 100. So yeah, certainly saved some battery capacity by slowing down. And really the only reason to go any faster is to get off the highway quicker. I don't mind doing 40 clips on this road because you haven't got quite so many people going past you, overtaking it twice. 210%, 220% of my speed. They're doing 100 and I'm doing 40 here or 45 on the bloody highway. Can do 48 with a full battery, but I reserve that for the Hopes and Prayers Bridge and the narrow strips between the guardrails. There's about 800 metres, one length of 300 and one length of 500 metres up near Yarraford Road. They fitted the desired guardrails into the existing embankment rather than widening the embankment to meet the requirements of placing guardrails. A lot of landscaping, planting a 10 metre deep, 3 tree deep screen so the passing public doesn't get to see the feedlot on the horizon. The feedlot owns the land both sides of the road here. We'll see how we go on this. 18 kilometres from home, I want to go for a bit further. Presumably you can see the pivot irrigation. And feel the corrugations, man. Whoa. Yeah, I work fun. It is what it is. 28 k's. But this is my rates at work, I guess. And when I get to my turnaround point, I will put my orange vest on. And that apparently will not affect the average speed as recorded by the bike's computer. Unlike what happened to the Tedco Discovery. When you stop to do anything like open a gate or pull out a notepad and try and record your time with that, your average speed would drop away like nobody's business, because the program continued to calculate or include that time into your average travelling time. This thing I realised after I'd done it a couple of days, I went less than 2 kilometres because it didn't clock up 2, and I know it did more than 1, it was probably 1.5 or so, 1.7. And average speed was 6 kilometres an hour, and sometimes I was stopped and sometimes I was doing 12 kilometres an hour, and it claimed the maximum speed was 54 kilometres an hour, which sort of reminds me of times when I've come back with an average speed of 40 kilometres an hour on the Bitumen road, and it claimed a maximum of 51. I think when the back wheel comes off the ground, the back wheel accelerates so fiercely that the computer registers that split second as being a sudden increase in speed, and that goes into the log as the fastest the wheel turned during the trip. Because I know I did not manage to hit 54 kilometres an hour maximum speed while doing an average of 6 kilometres per hour for 15 minutes covering less than 2 kilometres. Kilometres. I got to admit, when you're in a motor car, you do not realise how bloody rough this road is. And I'm pretty sure people on a petrol-powered dirt bike would come humming along here at 2 or 3 times my speed and wonder what the hell I'm doing. before. How silly of me, I finally remembered why I'm not wearing the bright orange look at me vest. It's because instead I'm wearing the camelback with this friggin' camera attached to it. It's a one or the other situation sort of thing. Bloody joyful potholes there. And abutment leads up onto a bridge which moves and guides the way, and in minutes has traversed the journey that would otherwise take up the day. Sort of tempted to finish that one, but no, we've got a vehicle coming. .22 clips. %78 battery remaining. Mind you, my plan to do the whole thing of, 40 kilometres an hour fell to bits as soon as I got to the bloody feedlot. Coming through here in four-wheel drive, towing the trailer, you get airborne. A lot of little sudden circular potholes, a lot of them caused by condensation and water falling off trees. 23 k's from home, 76% battery remaining. .34 watt hours per kilometre, 23 clicks from home, that's amazing. And I do believe we are approaching fruit salad corner. Yeah. 30 clicks, 76% battery, 34 watt hours per kilometre. 24 kilometres from home. .25 kilometres, 75%. Whoa! There was just a bloody potholes here in the bitumen. Like straight-sided mongrel looking bastard. Couldn't quite hide from an air raid in them, but you know, they're getting there. Driving to Emerald Road. And I didn't actually read the bloody sign, and I forget what it said. Could be the Tent Hill Road, I don't know. And we're now in Casuarina Forest. Casuarina sub rosa, mountain or black oak. Once upon a time when I was young and I had plenty of bloody petrol and plenty of money to buy it with, and didn't think too much about personal responsibility for global warming, I I used to drive along here quite a bit, just going to visit the bloke who lived at Tent Hill. $26K, 74% battery. Bloody corrugations you have. Man, that must be funny. Done me worse coming back the other way, because I'm going to be right on the outside of it. Things funny to do for the range test. I should have just kept going on the Emerville Road. Although Saturday afternoon on the Emerville Road you might get a whole lot of people going way more than 100 k's. Although the way the economy's going, there's not too many people in a position to afford to waste fuel doing stupid things. Not as many as there used to be. It used to be almost a rite of passage to do hundreds or thousands of miles in the main street every weekend, going up and down, looking at the same bored women every week. 27. %73 battery capacity. These corrugations are so friggin' bad, the only place to ride's right in the middle of the friggin' road. And then there's the potholes. Like I said, my rate's money at work. This is all Glenn and 7 Shire council responsibility. And I pay the rates. And I've never complained about this road to myself before in my whole bloody life until I tried to ride over it on a motorbike. That's fun, isn't it? Did you clock the snake in the loose gravel? More or less an example of the wildlife telling me to fuck off, this is getting dangerous. Which I won't really argue with. Not for much longer anyway. Although I'm sort of half tempted to keep going, but it would probably be about another 5k to get to where I'd like to get to. Or is it? road. The fucking snake gave me a heads up at the right point. I have this charming pantheistic variety of an interpretation of the God theory, wherein if you live somewhere where there's sufficient wildlife that the biosphere can afford it, if you're in imminent danger of hurting yourself by going too fast, the wildlife will jump up in front of you and cause you to step on the brakes and slow down. I didn't really put much stock in such theories until 28k. (72% battery capacity). I think we might risk it. Until one day, when I was driving between Skeleton Creek and Bald Knob, and as I was actually I was on my closest approach to the quote battleground, where skulls and ribs poked out the ground, said late night campfire yarns, where my grandfather apparently saw it in his childhood when it was still looking that way. Anyway, as I'm driving past the Skeleton Creek battleground or massacre site, depending on your point of view, police action perhaps, a magpie dived down the centre line of my bonnet, overtook the car, it then dived down in front between the two headlights and slowed right down, and I went straight over the top of it. One wheel went either side, and I was, pretty shocked and annoyed and surprised, and I looked in the rear vision mirror, and the magpie emerged, still airborne, still flying, and it rose straight up, and continued its flight, absolutely unperturbed. And I had, within a couple of months, had one or two occasions where I'd been driving way too fast for reasons that sort of made sense, and wild birds had taken off out of a tree visible a mile away, half a mile out over the paddock. Welcome. Isn't this fun? Better on the corrugations than in the loose gravel. And they'd fly towards the road on an interception course, putting them in a place where by the time I got there, they could climb up and dive down and basically stoop on me. What you're looking at right now is a hilltop where there are not only carved courage on trees, there's also carved stones on the ground, which I found and photographed and took and showed to the local land council, and they got very surprised. And in a certain ridiculous sense, I sort of feel a sense of responsibility for making sure that they're all right, and I like to come and drive past them every now and then. So that's yet another ticker box that today's little ride can claim to have achieved. Now we've got to find a reasonable spot to turn around. What have we done? 30 kilometres. Here we go. Yes, carved courage on trees. And the carved stone was my responsibility after I found it. So 70% battery remaining, and we've clipped over 30 kilometres, so we've got another 30 to go. So in old money, that's 15 miles. I'm going to stop and play with this riser just a little bit when I get past the extreme traffic of the hazard. Try with it all the way up. I am wearing Polaroid sunglasses, so the idea is to try and spot the shitty bits before they spit me off. That'd be fun, not noticing. And now we should get a fairly nice view of the horizon. Floodways are another thing this thing doesn't like. Thou shalt not ride through floodwater. And you don't use pressure washers on them either. Haven't got much to say because I'm too bloody busy trying to avoid the potholes. Good road when the ratchet straps fall off, eh? Back to the Casuarina sub-rosa. The relic of the landscape templates that the Aborigines used to maintain. Little micro environments, depending on the type of forest and the type of understory and the type of animals that lived in that habitat. But the yellow box. This makes the bewildered driveway look like a bloody piece of cake. He says that it nearly friggin' spits him off. Yeah, I think it was along here that the bloody snake gave me the heads up. So anyway, my theory is that any time the wildlife goes out onto the road in front of you and you have to hit the anchors or slow down, back off the throttle, whatever, so you don't hit the wildlife, however much you had to slow down in order to miss and avoid the wildlife, that's about the speed you should be going at until you identify the subsequent hazard, which if you hit that hazard or came upon it at the speed you'd previously been cruising at without thinking about it, you would have been put into an absolute miserably difficult driving or riding situation. And the fact of the matter is that I'm happy to live somewhere where we've got sufficient wildlife that we still use wildlife for roadkills. If you live in the municipal built-up area, they use toddlers and preschoolers and geriatrics for roadkill, pedestrians. And out here on the inland roads, vanishingly few people seem to understand that if the kangaroos are jumping up in the road in front of you, then the answer is to slow down. They're only doing it because they're terrified of your tyres. They stand still while waiting for the noise to go away, and it gets louder and stronger. And as you approach, particularly at night, they can't see anything in front of them because your headlights kill their night vision. And then they jump into the only thing they can see, which is the cooler light in front of your headlights. So if the wildlife jumps up in front of you, slow down. Believe it or not, smack dab in the centre of the road here is the best compromise between corrugations being right in the wrong side of the road and the ankle deep, soft, loose, dry, good dirt on the left hand edge. And to think you can get the next more expensive or more capable version of these things road registered, it's more than twice the weight, like 125 kilograms instead of 68, and just under twice the weight, and more than twice the price, you know, like 17,000 instead of 7,000. But they'll do 100 kilometres an hour for 120 kilometres, or they'll do 120 kilometres an hour for 100 kilometres. And you probably need 20,000 bucks worth of solder to get it charged up, which is about almost half what it takes to charge a Tesla. So anyway, to get back to my query about whether lithium-ion batteries can cope with getting cold, based on the fact that 15 years ago, I know for an absolute fact that somebody's lithium battery car could not cope with being cold. I'm wondering whether his car was lithium polymer, whereas this motorbike is lithium ion. Circularity of the potholes. Now I remember. Yellow box by the look of it. Blackbuck. When I was a kid, pretty much all rural roads were like this. They were the wildlife reserves between the farmed paddocks. Still on about 34 watt hours per kilometre. Normally by the time I'm coming home from town it's around 50 watt hours per kilometre, and it might be 55 or 57 watt hours per kilometre by the time I get back to my place up the top of the hill. Must be interesting farming both sides of the road. Yeah, it's a case of road rules are very interesting, but road surface conditions mean you've really got to ride where you can and keep a really good eye on the mirrors and get off the road for somebody else who's going a whole lot faster. Happily being electric, I can hear them. I think, generally, more or less. Can't see myself coming out here on this road again anytime soon. Not for the fun of it, anyway. It really is like pushing the bloody speedboat through choppy water. Stand up on the footbeds and let the bike rock underneath them. concentrated essence of cow shit coming in on the wind. Anybody admit there's 25,000 moo cows locked up in front of me? Gravel bit looks like it's completely full of water. I don't think I've ever seen it like that. %, battery, which is about 45 kilometres. Yeah, you could in theory ride away until you got to this point on the battery and then turn around. You could ride away till you're down to 60%. So on the voltage numbers on the battery, it's a sick little unit. On the performance on the road, the manual says at 25 kilometres an hour you can go 100 kilometres. I'm probably going to average closer to 35 than 25, but I will have done 60 kilometres by the time I get home. And at the moment I'm sitting on 59% of the battery. Those road signs announcing school children. Lady who organised and lobbied for them to be put in place used to live in the house over there on the right hand side. This used to be her front gate. But she started lobbying for those signs when her kids were in kindergarten. And by the time the signs went in, her kids were in high school, and about a year later, she left the husband before the kids left high school. And she got almost no benefit out of those signs, but she left them there as a legacy for whoever bought the place after she left. These really are economy size corrugations on the inside. I will be gratefully relieved to get back on the bitumen. Okay, now, from what I can make out, straight out over there, that's the Barilda paddock with my driveway going up, and I'm on top of that little hill out over there, more or less slightly to the left of that tree in the middle of the paddock, I think, as far as I can figure it out. So, when I'm in the motor car, I can almost never figure out where it is that I'm at any one time relative to where I live, but this thing's slow enough that you can figure it out that yes, you can get a fleeting glance from here. Kilometres an hour, 56% battery, 38 watt-hours per kilometre. Straight into a headwind and I can really hear the noise of the front tyres. Think I'm a fascinating thing. Drives are back down. run in the sun too, but it is in the shadow. Still got plenty of herbs coming up the hill, which is kind of surprising, 44 kilometres into the trip. Watt-hours per kilometre at the top of that hill. Had to sort of slow down for the kangaroos in case they decided to cross the road in front of me. Bloody LED screens, colour and all, angle of the sunlight, this you just can't read it. Not unless you put your shoulder in front of it to get some shade, or look down when a tree shadow crosses the road in front of you. I have no idea whether that was a factor with needle dial gauges, but it certainly happens with LED screens. 43%. That's usually what I arrive home at after 50 kilometres. No, after 36, and we've done 49. Kilometres an hour, 39 watt hours per kilometre, 43% battery remaining. 50 kilometres since commencing. Pretty sure we'll get the other 10 Ks on 42% of the battery. So that's the answer. Go slower, you can go further. And yet I still get the idea that even if you sit down and average the watt hours per kilometre being displayed on a full battery versus when you get home sort of thing, if you start out on 35 watt hours per kilometre and you get home on 55 watt hours per kilometre, your average would be about 45 watt hours per kilometre, and you shouldn't be able to go 50 or 60 kilometres. But you can. So I'm thinking the regenerative braking going down the hills must be a hell of a lot more effective than you would at first glance think that it's been. Because 50 watt hours per kilometre with a 2,300 watt hour battery is 34 kilometres, and I regularly come home from town with say 35 or 40 kilometres. It's showing 50 watt hours per kilometre, 45 as an average, and I arrive home with 48% of the battery. So going down the hills, the battery must be getting filled up, and the watt hours per kilometre only reflects the power going into the motor. And the amount that goes in is never enough to actually reverse the battery capacity readout. At least that's what I think is going on. Hopefully this is a lovely, colourful, light, dark, colour contrast style of a video. Not quite properly backlit, but the sun is more or less over the shoulder. And let's hope the almost full micro SD card had enough capacity on it to capture the whole video, and let's hope the phone camera had enough battery capacity. Coming up here at 40 k's, no drama, 37% battery capacity. near here where there's a narrow road, crest, up on top of the crest, the wildlife jumps up in front of the cars that are going too bloody fast and run into each other if one of them doesn't slow down. It's as if the biosphere is trying to do its best to maximise the potential for life that as many species as possible, but an awful lot gets invested in generating, creating, birthing, feeding, educating, raising and training a human. And if a biosphere has got a snake or a bird or a rabbit or a kangaroo or something to spare, and that might save a human from being taken off the playing board by their own impetuosity, then yeah, that equation seems to be put into practice. So when you live in a country of velocity freaks, once upon a time you would have said speed freaks, but nowadays people associate that with amphetamine abuse. You live in a nation afflicted with velocity disease that constantly sends dead wildlife up the side of the road. 54 kilometres. 33% capacity. Even in the blood, cramp sort of thing. And as I said, it is better. Smell the eucalyptus smoke. Not a lot of it, but some. Could be from the fire that was up around here somewhere which I called in yesterday, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It turned out to be a permitted burn. And everybody was pleased that the system worked. I spotted it as it went up, the smoke went up, pulled it in, and they were able to find the burn permit or the burn notification within their system. Hopefully no bored bulldozer or grader driver will knock them down for the exercise. 10 kilometres, 41 watt hours per kilometre, 29% remaining. Doing about 41 clicks. Closer to home one gets more tempting it is to go faster, I suppose. Back to the Rilda. Riding in sunlight again. And that is very pleasant, I've got to admit. K's, 42 watt hours per kilometre, 26%. Look it back to economy, and coming up here you no longer get every bounce wriggling your hand on the throttle, translating the more torque in the back wheel, making the next bounce bigger, and you get into a bloody pilot-induced oscillation that'll buck you off if you're not careful. No? My daughter is on. Arrgh. 24%, 484 kilometres, 1 hour and 56 minutes, 31 kilometres average speed, 49 maximum. Okay, 39 for 49. There we go, 24%, 1 hour 56 minutes. Yeah. There we go. Now we know. What's that? Oh, polydent coming out the corner of my mouth. All the fun of a full face helmet pushing on your cheeks with upper and lower false teeth. Such is life, Ned Kelly, such is life. Yeah. So about 75% of a battery for 60 kilometres. I'm happy with that. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.